Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It is 7:06 on this Wednesday morning in your nation's capital. It's the 20th day, but God, we're almost done with May. Memorial Day is behind us. Slow down, 2025. Coming up in 30 minutes, Mike Gonzalez, Heritage Foundation, will get his perspective on NPR's move to sue the Trump administration because it's unconstitutional to cut their funding. And then at 8:35, Sean Kennedy, Virginians for Safer Communities, about a uptick in crime in D.C. Right after they were bragging about how crime has gone down in D.C., we had Memorial Day weekend. We'll get to all of that in a moment. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Jules.
Good morning.
You are a proud Northern Virginian.
Well,
I mean, as proud as you can be. But apparently, according to Wes Moore, if you're in Northern Virginia, clearly you're fatigued and it's time for you to move to sunnier skies in Maryland. Take a listen to this really cringy, disingenuous social media post.
What's going on, everybody?
What's
It's time
going on?
for this week's More Comments. Andrea writes, I might have to cross the bridge and become a Maryland resident after almost 20 years in Virginia. I am exhausted. Well, Andrea, I'm guessing you're in Northern Virginia, so of course you're exhausted. It's time to give Maryland a shot. We
All right,
welcome-
admit it. That's you, Julie. That's your screen name online. Admit it.
yes, it was all me.
Oh, my gosh. It's as phony as Wes Moore is, and the idea that people are flocking to Maryland. Let's bring in Mark Fisher. He, of course, Maryland delegate for District 27C in your House of Delegates. That's part of Calvert County. Thank you for joining us. Also, more importantly, a member of the Maryland Freedom Caucus, what's left of it. Mark Fisher, thanks for joining us.
Good morning on this cold morning in Washington.
Is it me, or does Wes Moore sort of defy reality with this one? Because businesses have left Maryland, people are moving out of Maryland, and now he's putting out the social media video with supposed comments from Instagram. That's hardly hard data, is it?
It's just incredible. I mean, obviously his advisors are telling him there's a problem, and so his way of fixing the problem isn't with policy, but with this superficial post, which that's what his entire governorship is about. It's like Seinfeld, it's an episode or a show about nothing. But when I watched that, it actually reminded me of Anchorman, but I'm not sure if Governor Moore is more like Ron Burgundy or Brick.
Thank you. I think it can be both, by the way, Delegate Fisher. But you're right. I mean, the awkward reading of the script there. And this isn't a time where he wants to be president. And obviously, Democrats are starting to figure out that they can't play business as usual. But we got to do something cool and edgy like a podcast or social media videos. But it just comes across so cringe and, again, full of lies.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we just found out, of course, that the quantum computing companies and the AI companies aren't coming to Maryland. We found that out. We confirmed that because obviously the tax situation, the lack of electricity and so forth, which I know we're going to also talk about, are real problems. They're not going to come here for those reasons. So Governor Moore announces that the Maryland Department of Commerce put their foot on the scale and decided they were going to help McDonald's expand, which is great, right? If you work at McDonald's, I started out in the restaurant business as a waiter, a host, a bartender, put myself through college. I mean, I get it, but it's not consistent with what he's saying, that he wants us to be the quantum computing capital and the IT capital of the world to expand McDonald's. So the Freedom Caucus, we call him now Governor Moore McNuggets because, it seems to be the best place.
Yikes. That conjures images, Julie.
It really is bigger. This problem that we see on the Democrat side is bigger than Wes Moore. He's a perfect example of that, watching him sort of robotically talk about these Instagram posts, right? I mean, it's a perfect example of how they just can't connect with regular people. And you hear about how the Democrats are now spending millions of dollars trying to find the liberal Joe Rogan and trying to, they're testing messages on how to talk to young men and attract working class people. But they just don't get it. They don't understand that their constant condescension and their sort of speech rules and all of this stuff, that's what drives people away. And I would say that people detect this fakeness, this sort of awkwardness with Wes Moore. That is not the way to attract people.
It's really not. And do you know more than 70% of Democrats in Maryland oppose men and women's sports?
Yes.
Yet the everyday elected official in Maryland still supports men and women's sports. So why aren't they listening? And I agree with you. For me, there are basic principles when you're in the Freedom Caucus, and one of them is just leave me alone, government. Yeah. I don't need you to tell me how to live my life. I don't want you to tell me what kind of car I have to drive, what kind of light bulb I have to put in the inside of my living room. Just leave me alone. And the Democrats haven't figured that out. They want to tell you how to live every aspect of your life, and they think that that's the answer.
Our guest is Delegate Mark Fisher of Maryland, and yes, Governor Wes Moore. He is a packaged, focus grouped, poll-tested, perfect sort of embodiment of what the Democrats want in a candidate. It's a Stepford wife situation. It's like AI created Wes Moore. Yes. The problem is, as you said, his governorship so far has been, well, it's not about nothing. It's about spending money we don't have, raising taxes, and trying to pretend that problems don't exist, like electric bills. In June, our energy bills are going to increase in Maryland. And Moore's government, his solution is to turn to Washington and get a bailout from federal taxpayers. But the prices are only going to get worse. We're not even in the middle of summer yet. How did we get here, and what is the real solution, Delegate Fisher?
So you guys will love this. Our electricity prices in Maryland are 40% higher than Virginia. So that young lady in Virginia that was talking to Wes Moore saying that she couldn't wait to move to Maryland, if she knew about our electricity bills, I'm pretty sure she would stay in Virginia. The electricity bills in Maryland are higher based on one simple concept, supply and demand. The Democrats have closed 7 electricity generation plants. So they've removed 6,000 megawatts of power, but we've only added 1,600. And as a result, there isn't enough power on the grid to power Maryland's economy. In fact, last year, BG&E, by the way, this came from BG&E themselves in my office in Annapolis. They said, you know, Mark, it was so scary last year because we had to notify the regulators that there could be brownouts in the entire state of Maryland, at least in BG&E's territory, which is the largest, of course, utility in the state. Think about that. What kind of party would do this to their state? Because what makes us a rich country is cheap energy. And the Democrats are like going the opposite way. So how do you focus test that? I mean, you're going to lose every single time.
Right. And by the way, Delegate Fisher, this is at a time when Wes Moore would like to eliminate the internal combustion engine in Maryland, make it illegal to buy a gas-powered car, and force everyone onto electric vehicles while you can't get any electricity in the state. It's fantasy land. It's outrageous. And
well, he just wants you to, Larry, he just wants you to buy $100,000 worth of solar panels and put them on your house, and then you'll be able to power it. I mean, that'll solve everything.
It's easy.
It must be nice to be Wes Moore. Hey, Delegate Fisher, we got to leave it there, but there's plenty more to discuss as we move toward the re-election attempt of Wes Moore. Who would you like to see, by the way, be the Republican nominee? Anybody come to mind when you look in the bathroom mirror?
There are a lot. There are a lot of people I think are going to jump, and obviously Larry Hogan, I think, is definitely positioning himself to run again. He is allowed constitutionally, but no, I appreciate that very much. Right now, I'm just look. They're going to call us in for a special session. That's a whole other thing this October, probably to raise taxes again. So, yeah.
All right. Well, we're glad we got you on that wall. We need you on that wall. Thank you, Delegate Fisher.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Jake Tapper's navel-gazing continues. As he continues his book tour, he's leaping from podcast to podcast, trying to sell as many books as he possibly can. And again, what he did in this book, along with Alex Thompson, should not be confused with journalism. This is not exposing in any way the cover-up of Joe Biden's health. This is a further attempt to cover up the people who covered up Joe Biden's health. I point to the fact that they refer to this as a White House cover-up, as if the building located at 1600 Pennsylvania had anything to do with it. Don't blame the building. It's the people who worked in there. But the people who worked in there were Jake Tapper's sources before he wrote this book. They were Jake Tapper's anonymous sources for this book, and Jake Tapper hopes that they will continue to be his sources after the book. You see, if we knew their names, then maybe they wouldn't work in government again, and then they'd be of no value to Jake Tapper, you see. Yeah. So this is how this works. Also, by blaming the White House, with quotation marks, that actually provides even more cover for Jake himself and his colleagues in the so-called journalism business, who just shrug and say, they lied. What are we supposed to do about it?
Yeah, it's not our fault.
Right? Right? I've heard it said that the first rule of journalism is if your mother says she loves you, try to find a second source. See, you're not supposed to believe anybody about anything. That said, Jake Tapper's existential journey continues. Here's an excerpt from a latest podcast he appeared on where he goes well beyond just talking about what went wrong during the Biden administration and talks about what's wrong with the Democrat Party in general. And this story hits close to home, like right in his home, having to do with his 15-year-old son. Listen to this.
My son is now 15 years old, and he's a gamer. He's a football fan. He's starting linebacker on his varsity football team. The Democratic Party has no way of communicating with him. They have no entree into his world. And in fact, it's interesting. I went on a left-leaning podcast that shall remain nameless, and we were talking about my kids because I think they were both people without kids. And they asked me about my son, and I said he was, he's a football player and he wants to be a policeman. And their joke was about my 15-year-old son, oh, how does he feel about minorities? Like the idea that he wants to be a policeman, therefore he's racist, my son. And that was the big laugh. And then I got dragged in the comments and all that stuff. And I thought to myself, this is why you're losing elections. 100%. Like my football playing son, who has no political views. He's 15. He thinks about World War II and gaming and playing linebacker. That's his world. You're deciding he's a racist because he wants to be a cop. And why does he want to be a cop? He wants to be a cop because he wants to help people, and he thinks that's the best way he can help people.
I love how you're just exploding to get in on this. Go ahead. Go ahead,
it's always
Julie.
personal. It's always personal. It's Jake Tapper's son. Boys and men have been treated like this for decades by the Democrat Party. That's why they're losing. And now, because Jake Tapper's 15-year-old son gets treated this way, that's when he realizes this is a problem. He is the most narcissistic man in America. This man is unbelievable. Shameless. Just like your book. Buy your book instead.
Shameless liars. Buy my book, not his. Shameless liars. I actually named names about the liars in the media during the 2024 election. But if a Republican or conservative right-leaning guest came on his show, as if he would ever have a conservative right-leaning, he does his roundtable, and there's never actually a voice of the right on that roundtable. But if I were sitting on Jake Tapper's set and I said the exact same thing 3 years ago, he would have lambasted me. He would have railed against me. He would have attacked me. How dare you, you intolerant pig. And now, because it happened to his son, and he's still, by the way, he's still protecting the bigots because he said, I was on a left-leaning podcast which will remain nameless. Name them.
Name them. And
name them.
And this is why, look, he should make a public apology. Like, he should get Laura Trump on a stage and apologize to her. I'm all for that. And he did it privately. She said he did it privately. But where's the apology to the American, to the regular Americans who believed what he covered up? He helped cover up.
Well, listen, Jake Tapper's wrong. He thinks that they don't have a way of talking to young men. Pete Buttigieg has the solution here. Cut 11. Apparently, Pete Buttigieg knows a thing or two about talking to young men. Here is cut 11.
Of course, we should be talking about how, if Speaker Johnson got his way, it wouldn't be possible, not just for gay people to get married, but for straight people to get divorced, let alone like birth control or how he would want to regulate porn or whatever most people would have a problem with. But
there you go. Porn and gay marriage. This whole
David
myth
Hogg.
that you're hearing. Yeah,
It's like David Hogg, beer and...
I got to wrap
yeah,
it up. I got to wrap it up. But let me just say one thing real fast, because I keep hearing this myth that, Democrats have a communications problem. They have to figure out a way to communicate. It's not how to communicate. It's what they're communicating. Here's the bottom line. I want one prominent Democrat who wants to run for higher office to stand up and say that men cannot get pregnant. Can they do it? Will they do it? And until they can say that, it's not a communications problem. It's what they're communicating. It is 7:23. Time for a brand new chapter of WMAL's Military Medicine Minute, powered by Humana Military and the Friends of Uniformed Services University of the Health Sciences. During the Vietnam War, deep in the jungle, soldiers faced a hidden enemy. Allergic reactions. Bee stings, food, even insect bites could trigger deadly anaphylaxis. Military doctors needed a fast, reliable way to deliver life-saving medication in the field. Enter the automatic injector, developed for the U.S. military to quickly administer nerve agent antidotes. The EpiPen was invented by Sheldon Kaplan in the mid-1970s while working at Survival Technology, Inc. in Bethesda, Maryland. Originally, Kaplan was developing an auto-injector for the U.S. military to deliver antidotes. Later, scientists adapted the same tech to deliver epinephrine, and the EpiPen was born. What started as a battlefield tool became a civilian lifesaver. Today, millions carry EpiPens in backpacks, purses, classrooms, ready to stop allergic reactions in seconds. From chemical warfare to peanut allergies, one invention bridged two worlds and saved countless lives. And that's it for another Military Medicine Minute.
Coming up, we're going to be talking to Mike Gonzalez. He's with the Heritage Foundation. He'll tell us about this latest news that NPR is suing the Trump administration over cutting federal funding. Apparently, they think that's a First Amendment violation. We'll get Mike's thoughts. Keep it here. It's 7:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
7:37, O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in here. Coming up at 8:35, Sean Kennedy, Virginians for Safer Communities. Julie Gunlock's here. I'm Larry O'Connor. Julie, I don't know if you missed it in our last segment there. I said Pete Buttigieg apparently knows a thing or two about talking to young men, and you did not laugh. You just let it go.
I'm sorry.
Thought that was a good line.
Yeah. I thought you were going to tell me to shut up.
Just because we're being tidy and neat with our timing on today's show does not mean that I'm telling you to shut up. We value your contribution. Just keep it short. Mike Gonzalez is the senior fellow at Heritage Foundation. And Mike joins us now. Let's go, Mike. We're on a timeline here.
The parents are fighting.
Thanks for joining us.
Okay. Thanks for having me on, guys. I just arrived in Budapest from Paris. I haven't slept, so I'm not going to make any comments on Buttigieg.
La-di-da. So the Trump administration actually took a look at the law related to federal funding of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and they said, hey, they're not allowed to take any sort of partisan position with this funding. And apparently NPR, the people at NPR, they don't actually listen to NPR much. Otherwise, they would know they're violating that law on a regular basis. So Trump says, all right, that's it, no more funding.
Surely. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, they said, and NPR's response is to sue them because, am I getting this right? They think they have a First Amendment right to tax dollars?
Yeah, I just read that suit, by the way, here in my hotel room. It is unfathomable that NPR thinks it can win this on First Amendment grounds. I don't think this even gets by a very liberal lower court because Trump is not doing anything inhibiting NPR's or PBS's or anybody else's First Amendment rights. All he's saying is you have violated your charter. You're not not objective. We have all the evidence in the world now because the folks at the Media Research Center, whom you have on regularly, have collected and curated the evidence. And they're not the only ones. Uri Berliner, a former NPR reporter, had an essay a year ago detailing all the ways to which NPR has been very biased and partisan. So, yeah. And by the way, one last thing. They make it sound in their suit, and they always make it sound in all the public relations statements, that this is Trump bearing a special animus towards them because Trump doesn't like the way they report on him. No, every president since Lyndon B. Johnson, every conservative president of Republican Congress has tried to do this and failed. If Trump doesn't do this now, it will never be done.
Well, Mike, don't you think to some degree, and you said just what I was going to say, like there have been threats of defunding NPR, just like there's been threats about PBS for decades. I mean, when I came to Washington, this was some sort of, low-hanging fruit. I always thought, why don't they do this along with daylight savings time? But that's another episode. But I wonder if this lawsuit shows a little bit of panic on the part of NPR, that they think it might actually happen, and I actually think it might actually happen. So don't you think this is sort of some panicked move?
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Julie. And by the way, this cuts across the entire left. They have not gotten off the floor yet, and they're flailing, and they're desperate. And so this is more spaghetti on the wall, right? Look, again, I think if it doesn't happen now, then it will never happen. But the question is why do they have this Houdini-like ability to escape, to evade attempts at defunding them? And I have to put the onus on one party. Okay, I'm going to be partisan here. The Republican Party has been awful about this. Every time they have left them off the hook.
I agree.
I hate to say it, guys.
No, we've said the same thing because they've always been so terrified of being, you're gonna throw Elmo out on the street. Elmo is richer than I am. Okay, that little freaking sock puppet drives a Rolls Royce. But they've always been terrified of that, and so they backed off. But Trump doesn't care. Real fast, I just want to be clear here. The Trump administration, or the federal government, Trump administration acting on behalf of the federal government as its chief executive, they are not putting NPR out of business. They are not forcing them to shut down. They are not telling them what they can and can't report. So their violation, the First Amendment is not being violated. They are merely saying you can continue to operate, do whatever you want. We are just not going to pay for it anymore with tax dollars. That's all.
All those things are true, and I am convinced that NPR and PBS will survive. They will thrive. The membership model is a strong model. What it will mean, and you guys know this, and I know this, is that they will be further in the pocket of George Soros and Mackenzie Scott and the Tides Foundation. I don't care. I'm not like NPR President Catherine Marr that wants to suppress opposing views. I don't care if they exist. I don't care if the New York Times exists. I don't care, if CNN exists. I just don't want conservative tax dollars to go to them.
Don't make me pay for it. Right, especially at a time where, unlike the late 60s, we have a very different media landscape right now. And it's pretty rich that they always claim, this is going to put out some rural radio station in the Midwest who relies on NPR. They spend most of their money at NPR on podcasts right now, which are not even close to hitting that rural radio station in the Midwest.
Well, it is up to them to not send the money to GBH in Boston and to rich stations in New York, and send it to those stations in rural areas where they think they're going to go out of business. It is really their remit. It's their responsibility to do that.
Mike Gonzalez, always great stuff. I appreciate talking with you. Welcome home from Paris. Did you bring me some cheese?
I'm in Budapest. Yeah, Budapest is not your home yet.
Oh, all right. Well, bring me some goulash. Thank you, Mike. It's 7:48. Isn't that what that's what they eat in Hungary, right?
That's right. Yes.
Goulash.
Lots of paprika. Yes. Lots of paprika.
Oh, yeah, lots of paprika.
WMAL, making sense of the roads, because traffic doesn't always follow the pattern. Download the WMAL app to stream us for free.
For those of you who spend a lot of time traveling, like me and Julie, we travel a lot, don't we, Julie?
We do.
And we have everyone has their favorite airlines, and for some people, Southwest is their favorite airline. And I don't know if they buy ads here or not. And I'm sorry, my opinion is my opinion, not the radio stations or our ownership. But I've never been a big fan of Southwest. I'm old fashioned, Julie. I like to know where my butt's going to be on the plane.
Yeah.
When I buy my ticket, you know what I'm saying?
To some degree, I think I really do think some things have to do with age. Like when I was in my 20s, I didn't care. I just wanted a
cheapest ticket. I'll sit
now
anywhere,
I will
right?
pay to know where
That's
my
right.
seat is. Yeah.
That's right. I think you're right. I think it started when I had kids, because when you're traveling with kids, you got to know that your seats are together. You got to know that you're going to be able to. But people who love Southwest, it's like cult-like. And whenever you challenge them, whenever I would challenge, like, I can't fly Southwest because of that, they say, yeah, but our bags are free. We have free checked bags. First of all, if you're doing it right, unless you're spending, a week somewhere or more, you're not checking a bag. You figure out how to, do the overnight. That said, that whole our bags are free, no fee for checked bags, it's history, baby. You've lost that argument, you Southwest cultists, because starting today, if you fly Southwest and you need to check a bag, it will be $35 for the first one and $45 for the second one. That whole 2 bags fly free thing, they've had it for 50 years.
It's just depressing.
Dunzo.
It is getting harder to travel. It really is. They just nickel and dime you for everything.
Yeah. I really do recommend it, especially if your travel takes you to sort of the same places most of the time. Find one airline, lock in with that airline, get that airline's credit card so you can maximize your points and your miles, get yourself some status. You'll get free bags. It doesn't take a lot. My preferred airline is American. They're not perfect, but I got to tell you, I've only had in over a decade of travel, and I'm talking back and forth to California almost monthly.
Yeah.
I've only had one flight canceled on American. That's my record. But
I am so embarrassed at my age. I have just started that, and I went to Moscow round trip. I went to Indonesia round trip.
Those lost miles.
I know. I know.
That's tragic. Yeah.
Careless.
So I just, listen, I know people are going to love Southwest. I love the fact that when they do the safety and, air masks dropping down from the ceiling, they make it a stand-up routine. That's fun. That's charming. But
not worth it.
Really, not that you have to pay for bags now. I'm sorry. It ain't happening. So there you go, Southwest. Sorry. It's 7:52.